Welcome to this episode of the Dr. Ginny Show. I announced last time that this is going to be the new format that I'm going to use to bring you the most value that I can from my years of experience in the corporate world, as well as the last 8 years since 2017. Been working closely with women, many brown women in my practice, and also supporting many of my corporate partners by being the executive coach, for example, for the Women in Financial Markets now for 2 years in a row. This will be our third year. And also supporting McKinsey and Company in the Hispanic Latino Executive Leadership Program. I've been exposed to of the fears, the concerns, the limitations that many of our leaders are facing. And as a result, I've been able to see patterns. So today's training in this episode is primarily focused on what I have been noticing and what I want to highlight for companies looking to support their talent to continue to grow and advance, especially those who are high performing and talented within your company, and for individuals who are feeling they haven't unleashed their mindset, their perspective. They are not really living their full potential because of the limitations, the stories, the doubt, and the worry that we continually fall back to. This is our old programming. And as companies, we also have an old programming. This is reflected in when you are in meetings, you hear the phrases, we've always done it this way. This has been working so far, so we're going to continue doing it this way. And as individuals, we may hear ourselves saying in our minds this negative self-talk, nothing that I do is going to change what happens. So why bother? Or it is what it is. Or if I keep my head down and I continue to do hard work, they're going to tap me on the shoulder and provide opportunities for me. And from my experience working with those organizations, working with individuals, I have learned that that mentality and that way of thinking and perspective is not going to support us to be in a position to powerfully create a future that aligns with the outcomes and the vision we have for our company and for ourselves in our careers, which, by the way, supports our family, creates a role model for our nieces, our nephews, our daughters, our sons, who see you as a role model for them. And so what can we do to address this issue? The issue that we are not truly going for it as companies and as individual women and leaders. What's stopping us and what's getting in the way? That's going to be the core of this very brief training. The first thing I want to do is highlight what I've noticed, because if we are only speaking theoretically, it may seem like, Ginny, you're just making things up. This is something you read in an article, and that's not the case. This has been my lived experience. One of the patterns I've noticed is that when I am creating any type of leadership or coaching program that truly helps our leaders gain new tools, shift their perspective to be a growth perspective that taps into their resources, their abilities, their strengths, and what I call their superpowers or unique value proposition, that there are limitations, stories, rackets, as I also call them, that prevent individuals from pursuing their healthy ambition. The word ambition tends to have a negative connotation where, oh, I'm greedy, I'm ambitious. However, the way I use the word ambitious is that you know you have potential and you know you are capable of so much more than what you're currently doing potentially in your role. How can you bring more of the dimensions you have that you know you're capable of to your work and to your role and function to add the most value to your environment within your company and for your teams and in the marketplace in general? The reality is that although we have the same soul value because we're humans, and that is an intrinsic worth that we have, unfortunately, we live in a world where we don't all have the same market value. And our market value increases by the level of knowledge, the expertise that we bring to our clients, to our shareholders, to our teams, and how much impact we are able to have. And when we are in demand because our skill set and our expertise is so niched that we are the go-to person, we then see opportunities. We gain the sponsors who want to support or advocate for us and our growth within their companies. How do we create that? We must squash the inner conflict. This inner conflict, the conditioning, the programming that we have been embedding in our brains, and that limitation and those ways of thinking keep us in a box. How I also like to call it, in a jar. And we have that jar very tight, and we can't sometimes unleash our unique value proposition. So how can we address this as companies and as individuals? I've touched on this before. The number one pathway to unleash ourselves is to truly connect with what would be a compelling future for myself, for my team, for my company, my department, and within my industry. We could get back down with what we see, and we can fall prey to what I see is reality, when in fact, what we're seeing is fiction, is what we have been able to create with this angle and this lens of I have limited possibilities. What would happen if, as a company, you saw yourself as having unlimited possibilities? And as an individual, you saw yourself as someone who could make your ideas, bring them to reality. What would happen to you as a person and in your career and your level of fulfillment if you didn't feel that you were in a jar with a very tight lid? What would happen to you as a company if your senior leadership felt that the talent you have has the potential to be developed, and that you could create a healthy pipeline of future leaders that represents your marketplace and the actual talent you have within your company? What are the obstacles getting in the way of your leaders continuing to develop themselves? One of the challenges I found is that there is a hesitation to develop yourself. There is a hesitation on the leaders and talent to see that if they put in the work, they are going to be noticed and acknowledged, and that they will be able to advance and grow. And that is created mostly by the culture and the conditioning from what they have seen happens in your workplace. And if you are a company looking to develop your leaders and providing a roadway and a roadmap for them to not only attract them, but to develop them and also have them stay within your company and retain them, what changes need to happen for them to see that if they put in the work, there is a constructive pathway forward? And that's something to ponder as a team, because the reality is that while you're focused on delivering your services and products and adding value to shareholders and pleasing and ensuring you're aligned with the board of directors, that in addition to taking care of business and the nature of the business that you're in, it is people and talent that execute your vision and create the strategies to move forward. And if those strategies are constrained by the limitations the leadership team is seeing, then we are operating from history, not operating from opportunity. When we look at the liability versus the opportunities, we are not gaining the most value from our talent. And you know whether or not this is you because you probably are struggling with innovation, creativity, collaboration, and the teams being aligned. You may be experiencing a lot of inner competition, which thwarts and hinders exactly what you want from your teams, which is for people to see the same vision and to put their efforts and resources behind that vision to execute on it and create the future that will bring your company to the next level of maturity, of growth, of profits, and whatever the mission is for your company. And so as I notice these patterns, the limitations where people are being held back by themselves in many cases, combined with a culture where they don't feel their efforts will be rewarded, we are creating this perfect storm of inadequacy, complacency, and lack of self-efficacy, where people see that if I develop myself, this will bear fruit. So my friends, if you are unable to see a bigger vision for yourself and to see you thriving in your work, where you're doing work that is compelling to you, where you feel in flow because you're putting in every day the effort and you are leveraging your unique value proposition and you're building relationships all around you, to collaborate, to innovate, to identify problems, and most importantly, to work on solutions together, we are not going to get the most from the potential of our organizations and the potential of our talent. So let's create an environment that encourages our talent to do the self-development that will get them to their next level, not only in the org chart, also in their growth as leaders, gaining new skills to lead, engage, and influence their teams powerfully, coach and mentor them, support them in their own developmental plans, where people feel seen and heard, and we are taking care of delivering for our clients and customers and shareholders and aligning with the board of directors. How can we make that transition? It requires us to be extremely self-aware and mindful of where we are and being honest with ourselves that we have issues, we have challenges to overcome. And it's going to take a two-pronged approach to address those challenges. And it will require us to look at our environment on one hand and look at the individuals on the other hand and provide tailored and customized development for our leaders that addresses the inner conflicts they're facing that's individual to each person. So notice that I am bringing up a problem, and I also need to be part of the solution. The programs that we offer at Executive Bound and Fearless Women at Work address developing the skills that our leaders need to align with the vision of the company they are in, to feel they have the power to harness those resources they have and bring their best selves to work and feel they have the commitment and the investment of their senior leaders because they're vested in their success and the success of your team and your organization. And the way we do this is by being intentional about having those conversations with our teams, having individual conversations, mentoring conversations, and coaching conversations, which require us to have those skills. And many of us leaders don't ever get those skills from simply getting promoted from one role to the next. We keep moving up the ladder, and we are not checking ourselves or ensuring that as leaders move up the ladder, they have the skills they need to be successful at those levels. So then we have another problem, which is we promote people because they're good individual contributors, but we don't give them the tools they need to succeed. And in some cases, especially for women who are promoted to levels of senior leadership, they find themselves very isolated with very few role models they can emulate to gain those skills. As a company, let's create the environment where we can mentor and sponsor your senior women. So when they do gain those senior leadership roles, they're set up for success instead of having to leave your company because of the frustration they feel because they're not prepared for those roles. And the same goes for any leader that you promote. If you need support in assessing where are we with our strategy of creating a healthy leadership pipeline where our leaders can develop their healthy ambition to stay with us and grow with us, let's get together. And you can always find me at callwithginny.com. In conclusion, we must take that two-pronged approach to addressing these challenges and tackle the institutional and systemic issues that we are facing, as well as individuals being responsible for our career growth. Nobody's in charge of that but us. And we know our potential better than anyone else. Let's not delegate that. Let's own that. And let's identify what's getting in your way, preventing you from going for it, which, by the way, influences and impacts in a negative way your earning potential. And we don't want that to be the case. We want you to leave your family in the best financial and emotional and spiritual standing that you can so they can build from where you are. My son is a senior in high school, and I'm helping him prepare for starting his college career. And I keep sharing with him that he has the privilege to build from where I am, to leverage what I've learned up to now, and to then grow from that place. And then he'll support his children one day to do the same. If that's important to you, that's meaningful to you to, in addition, also be a role model for your team, let's connect. Live with purpose, live with joy.